Hello. Okay, as promised the video. Alright, let's start out with my beginning experiments. This was the beginning of my experiments. That is some stainless steel washers with rubber gaskets in between them. I have a plastic bolt going through them so that the washers do not make contact. And in here went the water. This was the positive lead, negative lead. When the hydrogen was produced, because that would sit in the water, hydrogen would come out of here. This unit was my first test unit that I made, produced a pathetic amount of hydrogen, but it did produce hydrogen, in fact. Second unit was a design of utilizing stainless steel 316 plates with hardened plastic. The water would come in through this one. The gas would leave through this one. This was the positive lead, negative lead, cathode anodes. And this unit worked very well. It's 9-plate. The hydrogen gas would come back to this. This is what I was using as my liquid tank. You can see where I fixed some nipples to the bottom here. And this has still got about that much fluid in it. The liquid would come out on this one, go down into the unit. Gas would come back here, bubble through here, come out here. On here you use a flashback arrestor to make sure that no flame of any kind or spark comes back, because hydrogen being as flammable and explosive as it is, you don't want a flame coming back into here where it's containing a bunch of hydrogen. So you need to get a good flashback arrestor on here. I bought some flashback arrestors, what was called flashback arrestors, on eBay from someone who I will not name at this point because I've agreed not to, that were not in fact flashback arrestors. They're one-way valves. Be very careful that you make sure that you get an actual good flashback arrestor that is truly a flashback arrestor. Otherwise, here's what's going to happen to you. If you have a flame that comes back through the unit, you're going to have something like this. This is the explosion that occurred. As you can see, it blew out the sides of the can, blew the seam out. If you're not using a real flashback arrestor, expect an explosion. Again, I won't say what company I bought it from because they have now agreed to no longer call that item a flashback arrestor, and we've made some understanding. But this was the second unit at any rate. This unit was enough to put off about 1.5 liters of hydrogen, and it was good enough that I was able to take and make my handy dandy homemade torch. As you can see, it's got a blackened end because I've been using it for welding purposes and cutting as a cutting torch. This is filled with a fine bronze wool that you need to keep wet. So when you use it for the first time, make sure that you put some water in here until it comes dripping out of the tip, and then shake it to make sure you can get a lot of the water out, but more so to get the water all throughout the inside of this thing on the bronze wool. That will act as its own flashback arrestor. You still want to put a real flashback arrestor on the end here, between this end on your torch and your hydrogen processing unit. Anyhow, this works good for cutting through light aluminum and steel. Now on to the main part. This is the RV that we have. This will also be running on hydrogen eventually. And here is the Suburban that I have everything installed on. Show you real quickly. The only thing currently on the interior that you'll see is this switch right here. This is the on-off switch for the hydrogen. This is a secondary safety switch is all this is at this point. Let's go ahead and look at the engine. Alright, main components. That is the main water tank. As you can probably see, there's some water right there. That is the main water tank. This flows down. You can see it on this green hose down here. It goes down to, you see that thing with the white down there with the bolts? That's the thing that produces the hydrogen. I have that mounted to the frame. I actually drilled holes through the frame and mounted that thing to the frame so it won't move. The hoses that are on it, you can probably see that green hose again. That green hose and all the wiring to that is actually zip tied up under the frame there, so that none of that will come back into the fan or the belt area here, because you see how close everything is there. So I've got those actually zip tied under the vehicle. I don't know if you can see that from down here. Yeah, I can crawl down here. There's the unit right there. You can see it's actually mounted to the frame. The bottom one is where the water goes in. The top one is where the hydrogen comes out. There is an inlet for water and hydrogen on both sides of this, and that's mounted straight to the frame. As you can see, I've got various zip ties there holding the tubes and the wiring for it forward from the fan area there, because you don't want to get anywhere near the belts back there or the fan. You chop stuff up with it. Oh, sorry about this. I gotta get back up. Okay. Anyhow, so the hydrogen comes back up into this unit, and there's an airspace here for the hydrogen to come into. This hose here comes out, goes around the engine, goes down through here, and lo and behold, we have another tank right here. This is what's called the bubbler. Now, here's a trick that I've learned. The other morning I came out, I live in Minnesota, northern Minnesota, so the other morning I came out, and the liquid that was down here, the distilled water, was actually frozen. So I went into the garage, and I noted that the vinegar that I had sitting in the garage was not frozen. Now, vinegar is used as an agent to neutralize any acids for the hydrogen processing. So obviously, I took some hydrogen or some of the vinegar and I put it back into here. That not only neutralizes any possible acids from the hydrogen, but obviously it's not going to freeze anymore either if it wasn't frozen when the water was. So I would suggest in your bubbler tank, put some vinegar. That'll stop it from freezing in the winter. Anyhow, the hydrogen comes in. You can see the hose down here. It comes in underneath the tank, and then out of the top of the tank, after it bubbles through and gets rid of all the water vapor, it comes down this tube. This tube goes over here and goes into a flashback arrestor. This stops anything from coming back. If you had a backfire in your engine, for example, and it tried to light the hydrogen on fire, it's going to only come to here. It's going to stop right here. It's not going to be able to blow up this tank or that tank, because the hydrogen stops right there. That's what the arrow is for, is to show the direction of the hydrogen. So this is definitely a needed item. If you want to contact me through the blog or through YouTube here, I will tell you where you can get these. The gentleman I'm getting them from, I trust very much. He's been a great individual.